India's counter-terror grid in Jammu and Kashmir has uncovered something deeply disturbing. In the dense forests of the Kishtwar district at an altitude with survival is a challenge. Security forces have busted a fully equipped underground terrorist hideout built not at ground level but at 12,000 feet above sea level. This is Operation Trashi-1. The hideout was located nearly 2 kilometers away from the nearest habitation, buried beneath dense forest cover and camouflaged so effectively that it escaped detection for months. Security forces recovered 3 months' ration meant for at least 6 terrorists. This includes rice, flour, desi ghee, cooking oil, vegetables, blankets, medicine, gas cylinders, and even 50 packets of Maggi noodles. Intelligence inputs indicate that the hideout was being used by Jaish commander Saifullah, a Pakistani national, and his associate Adil from this location. Terrorists were monitoring the movement of security forces and planning attacks. On Sunday afternoon, when the troops moved in after receiving specific intelligence, the terrorists lobbed grenades at the security personnel, injuring 7 soldiers and managed to escape using the forest cover. One of the injured soldier, Havildar Gajendra Singh, later succumbed to his injuries. The Indian Army held a wreath-laying ceremony to honor his sacrifice. This was not a temporary shelter. Officials say that the hideout had multiple entry-exit routes and was dug deep in the ground and was designed to withstand harsh weather, allowing terrorists to remain hidden for longer durations. The question now is, how did such heavy supplies reach 12,000 foot location deep inside forest terrain without local assistance? Because this was, and I think this is impossible without help from overground workers, and army has already questioned 30 local residents. On this issue, I am joined by Lieutenant General Raj Shukla, former General Officer and Chief Commanding ARTRAC. Thank you so much, sir. Is this new, sir? Was this happening earlier? And how do we decode this, sir?
So see, while it is an obvious matter of concern, Karthik, it is not really disturbing. In the sense, I'm not condoning what's happened,
Okay.
but this is a familiar tale. I recall Sarfinash, a major operation launched decades back in the hills around Surankot. You had many such hideouts. When I was commanding the division in Baramulla,
I covered it, sir.
Yeah, so you had these. All right, so it's not really a matter of deep concern. All the same, I mean, let's take a look at what are the real terror indices and the violence levels. And no, before anything else, let's pay homage to Havildar Gajendra Singh, who lost his life in this contact operation. So, and now let's come to the larger issue. While there is no change of intent, in Asim Munir and his terror enterprise, and that only keeps growing, I think violence levels are down at an all-time low. If you heard what the chief had to say on Army Day, 35% of the terrorists, or 65%, sorry, of the terrorists killed last year were foreign terrorists. And local recruitment, he said, was only 2 last year. That is in single digits. So, while these kind of incidents to engineer terror events around events like Republic Day are shall we say, an old piece of trick, overall, the violence levels are seriously down. Local recruitment has been virtually snuffed out. Tourism is growing. The Amarnath Yatra has been peaceful. Politics has begun to flow. Developmental activities accelerating. So I think the nexus that you point out, OGWs, the financial nexus, while there will be some cases, overall that nexus has virtually been eradicated. Excess is increasing. For example, when I was commanding the division in Baramulla, on the other side of the river, there was not even a police station. Now I'm told there are 4. And similarly, all across Kashmir, the civil administration is reasserting its authority. So these are, I think, welcome signs. And I'll say that while the violence, the terror indices are at an all-time low, and as far as these operations are concerned, finessing of tactical operations will be done by the corps and divisional commanders. They'll tighten the noose further. But this point that I wish to make is that, ultimately the solution with Pakistan is to have combat over match. I mean, look, a country which is 1/10 of our economy should not even think of pricking us with these, periodic episodes of terror. So here we have to increase our military capacities, technologically enable them, calibrate them, and we must start going after the terror infrastructure, like the Israelis have gone after Hamas. We must go after Jaish. We must increase our capacity to carry out leadership strikes. Overall, the lethality along the LC must be increased. And today there are ways of doing it through dronery, through, shall we say, software enabled command and control systems where we can make the kill chains more lethal. And none of this is theory. This is happening in Ukraine and other places. Swarm strikes on abetting headquarters, covert operations. It is in this dimension, I think, we now really need to pull our punches.
So
So
basic,
while we must continue to nuance the tactical operations, uh, we must achieve this combat overmatch. And I'm not making a case of, for military jingoism. I'm saying calibrated technological capacities. Each time Pakistan does something, it must be hit harder and harder in an escalatory ladder. And that will help to, snuff out this terror once and for all.
uh, I understand you are saying that India has already called off the Pakistan's nuclear bluff, but can we do something which the Israel does? When it meets adversaries, for example, there's a lot of criticism, but what they have done in Yemen or, for example, Iran, the deterrence message is very strong.
So I'm not making. I mean, see, Israel has been a little lax on collateral damage. So I'm not making that case.
Okay.
The Indian Army is our professionalism lies in lethality, but not in collateral damage.
Okay.
Look at the patience we showed in Kashmir. 3
Yes.
decades. We've never used anything more than a rocket. So I'm making a nuanced difference, but lethality of the absolute resolve kind, what the Americans demonstrated in Venezuela. I mean, today it may sound fantasy, but one day, why not extract terror masterminds for trials in Indian courts? If you build these capacities bit by bit, technologically enable them, calibrate them, along with all the stuff that is going on, the tactical counter-terror operations on our side of the border. But if Pakistan, doesn't get the message, despite the many warnings that we've sounded, I think we'll have no option to escalate things, but that will have to come for what is combat overmatch. Why should our economic differential not also get reflected in strategic military might? And we are not provoking. We are only saying that we will respond if you continue to needle us. And now see, the arc of terror is growing. It is not only north and south of Pir Panjal. If you followed Asim Munir and his cohorts, they are threatening strikes from Bangladesh.
Absolutely, sir.
we
But
have to also
then how do we
strengthen the
change
arm.
how do we change the nature of how do we change the behavior of the Pakistani state? If you're talking about deterrence, then what's the solution? Then how do we create that deterrence, sir, so that they behave differently with us?
So what does this combat overmatch mean? Decades ago, Mr. Subramaniam, K. Subramaniam, the author of the Kargil Review
Yes,
Committee,
yes,
when he spoke of the DIA and the theatre commands, he was talking exactly of this. The theatre commanders and the DIA collectively should shape events in our region. I mean, no country tolerates such a, shall I say, unstable periphery as does India. America doesn't do it, China doesn't do it, and I'm not making a case for military jingoism. But we have
No,
to
I get
shape
your
events
point. I think I get your point. I get your point,
and
sir.
we must have a 3-star in the MEA who coordinates or who integrates diplomacy with, what should we say, gray zone operations and the instrument of force.